So the other day we had started off with the chapter that was the triumph of surgery. And we've read that how Tricky is in a very dangerous situation now. And how, yes, so Tricky had landed in a very difficult situation because of his weight, because of his huge appetite that he had. And his mistress, Mrs. Pumphrey, was also responsible in a way because she used to feed him a lot any time of the day or night. And even he would not, stop eating. And so as a result, now he has gone to surgery. Surprisingly, what is the surgery over there? Is it some kind of operation? No, it is not that he was put on the operating table and something was done to him, no surgery was there. But what was there done to the little dog? There was a change in lifestyle. When he went over there, he, like, for 2 or 3 days, he did not get anything to eat. He was just given water to drink. And then he started moving around. And when he heard the dogs barking and running here and there, he started reacting to them. And yes, he started, eating the food. And the next day, the narrator gave him a separate bowl for him. And so he started competing with the other dogs to eat. And he was running around with them. And he became active, and not only during the day and even at night. So during the day, they would be running around all over the place. And at night also, they would be hunting for the rats, right? Yes. So all of them there, yeah, they would, be very active, and Tricky was following in his the footsteps, or you can say whatever the other dogs were doing. So there's a big change. Now, about our Mrs. Pumphrey, has she stopped interfering? Yes, naturally the little dog was there in the treatment, has come for treatment, has come for surgery. So she's a little worried, and yes, so she has sent so many things. So whether it is eggs and wine, all these things, right? So that the strength of Tricky would come back. What was she thinking? What has happened to Tricky? Kya ho gaya Tricky ko? That Tricky is very weak. So he needs a lot of energy. He needs a lot of food. Okay, right? So she's sending all these things, and not knowing that she is interfering in the treatment. Okay, so who was eating all the food that was sent for Tricky? The doctors and his friend, right? They were all having the eggs for breakfast, and they would have wine with lunch. And so yes, they were wondering that how long is this going to continue? Right. Okay, then let's continue the chapter here. Now, what has she been sending? She's been sending eggs, and she's been sending wine. And now we could hardly believe it when the brandy came to put a final edge on Tricky's constitution. Constitution on his well-being, for his health, right? So Mrs. Pumphrey has sent brandy also. For a few nights, the fine spirit was rolled around, inhaled, and reverently drunk. And yes, the doctor and his friends are very happy, and they were, of course, having a good time. All those drinks that were coming. They were days of deep content, starting well with the extra egg in the morning, improved and sustained by the midday wine, and finishing luxuriously round the fire with the brandy. So yes, so Tricky is there having a tough life. He's running around and he's getting, limited food. He's exercising with the other dogs. Okay, but what about, the doctors? They are eating even more. They're having eggs for breakfast, wine and brandy. And this is how much Mrs. Pumphrey is pampering her dog. It was meant for her dog, not for the doctors. Okay. It was a temptation to keep Tricky on as a permanent guest. But I knew Mrs. Pumphrey was suffering. And after a fortnight, felt compelled to phone and tell her that the little dog had recovered and was awaiting collection. Right. So do you think they wanted to keep a Tricky as a guest for longer? And why? Why did everybody there wanted to keep Tricky for a longer time? Because of all the good food, all the good things his mistress was sending them. And was it that a nice thing to do? No, it's not a nice thing to do. You are there, like, yes, in not, being honest regarding somebody's treatment and all the things that she's sending for a dog, they are consuming them themselves. Okay. Within minutes, about 30 feet of gleaming black metal. So what has the doctor done? He's called Mrs. Pumphrey that please come and take your dog, right? So he's much, much better. And yes, so within minutes, about 30 feet of gleaming black metal drew up outside the surgery. What is a 30 feet of gleaming black metal? It's the car, right? So the car that they have. And yes, the chauffeur opened the door and I could just make out the figure of Mrs. Pumphrey almost lost in the interior. So such a big car has come to pick up Tricky, and there's a chauffeur-driven car. Her hands were tightly clasped in front of her. Her lips trembled. Oh, Mr. Harriet, do tell me the truth. Is he really better? And Mrs. Pumphrey, she's so worried. Ki kare kya ho gaya mere dog ko? And he must be so ill. Yes, he's fine. There's no need for you to get out of the car. I'll go and fetch him. I walked through the house into the garden. A mass of dogs was hurtling around and round the lawn, and in their midst, ears flapping, tail weaving, was a little golden figure of Tricky. In 2 weeks, he had been transformed into a light, hard-muscled animal. He was keeping up well with the pack, stretching out in great bounds, his chest almost brushing the ground. I carried him back along the passage to the front of the house. The chauffeur was still holding the car door open, and when Tricky saw his mistress, he took off from my arms in a tremendous leap and sailed into Mrs. Pumphrey's lap. She gave a startled ooh and then had to defend herself as he swarmed over her, licking her face and barking. So the dog's reaction, he's so happy to see his mistress. And the mistress is worried, I don't know what has happened. He must have become so thin and he must have been so weak. That is why she used to send him all that, the eggs and the wine. And now the dog is very happy to see his mistress. During the excitement, I helped the chauffeur to bring out the beds, toys, cushions, coats, and bowls, none of which had been used. As the car moved away, Mrs. Pumphrey leaned out of the windows. Tears shone in her eyes. Her lips trembled. Oh, Mr. Harriot, she cried, how can I ever thank you? This is a triumph of surgery. Yes, okay. So it is, right, a very nice story here, does convey a very important message. What about Mrs. Pumphrey? What did she expect had happened to her, like her dog to be like? Because he's been in surgery, according to her, he is there in a very terrible condition. And was his condition so terrible that he required surgery? No. What was the surgery? Yes, what was the surgery? The surgery was the change of lifestyle. And do you think this is applicable to everyone? It's not only applicable to our pets, but if all of us took care of our diet, and yes, just like Principal Ma'am said right now, that yeah, we don't have to sit in front of the computer the whole day. You have been sent videos of exercises. You have to give attention to your health also, right? Not that this is just another like month that we're spending at home and we have to eat and sleep and just look at the computer. No, walk around, get up, right? After where you have this break also in between the periods also, just keep on walking during that time, climb up the stairs. And yes, you have been sent these videos of exercises, do them. It's very, very important. You want to fit into your school uniform when you come to school or not? Yes? Yeah, you want to, right? So yeah, everybody wants to fit into that uniform, of course. But what I can see of all of you, none of you is there, like, of course, so overweight, right? So you're all quite fit and fine, okay, right? So you have to make sure that you exercise indoors only, do yoga, okay, right? Yes, you do your stretching exercises, do a little dancing around here and with the music playing around. So all that you can do, isn't it? Yeah. So otherwise we don't want to end up like Tricky and so overweight and bloated and unable to move, right? Okay. So it's a very simple story with a nice message with yes, highlighting that how over pampering can create a lot of problems for us. So we have to take care of our health and care of the pets also. Come on, let's do the questions here. What kind of a person do you think the narrator, a veterinary surgeon, is? Would you say he's tactful as well as full of common sense? Yes, so what about the doctor? He's a veterinary doctor, the narrator here. And is he a tactful person? He's quite a clever person and with a lot of common sense. So he knew that the dog did not require surgery and it was just a simple change of lifestyle, right? And he did that because if the dog stayed longer with Mrs. Pumphrey, she would have hurt his health irreparably, right? She would have damaged him too much. And so he had to bring him out from there and kept him at his hospital or that treatment center that was there, or for that home for dogs where it was. And he's made the dog change his lifestyle. And just in 2 weeks, the dog has improved so much, right? It's become much more active and spent a good time with the other dogs. Do you think Tricky was happy to go home? What do you think will happen now? Yes, this is the big question. What is Mrs. Pumphrey going to do? What will happen to Tricky now? What will happen? Will he remain healthy? Or do you think Mrs. Pumphrey is going to go back to her old ways? Tricky will be active. Tricky should be active. He should be active and yeah, he should be active because of the change in the lifestyle. And yes, he was happy the way he jumped at Mrs. Pumphrey and licking her. He was so happy to see her. And Mrs. Pumphrey was so worried sitting in the car. And yes, Nishta, he would run and play and hop. Hope he does that. And what about Mrs. Pumphrey, considering her behavior? What do we expect her to do? What do we think she's going to do? What is she going to do? I hope she does not pamper the dog again. Hope she does not overfeed the dog. Yes, she's going to be very happy. She is there quite happy. And we need her to be sensible. We also need her to understand that, see, your dog after 2 weeks has come back in an active form. So continue with that habit. Okay, right? Yes. Do you think this is a real life episode or mere fiction, or is it a mixture of both? Is it just a story, and do you think it happens in real life also? Is it just a story? So we have, people who are there, they take care of, yes, it could happen in real life too. Absolutely correct, Shantanu. It can happen. We have people who pamper their pets too much. And sometimes what happens is that, yes, people think that what is the best way of showing the love and affection? What is the best way of showing the care and concern? Feed, food, right? More food, right? Okay, yes. And see, yes, absolutely. This is what we are worried about. Like, of course, in the previous answer, that she might think that, oh my God, the dog is looking so weak. And, there's a difference between looking weak and healthy and fat. Some people think that if you are there, like having a big tummy and all, then only you are healthy, right? They think if you are lean and thin, then you're not healthy. Oh my God, look at that person is so underfed and underweight, isn't it? So we have this very popular notion. And these are things that we need to change. As long as the person is, as long as the child is active, alert, not very lethargic and lazy, I would say that, yes, there's no harm in being thin, right? So you don't have to put on so much of weight to look healthy. So healthy is active, alert, and yeah, keeping your excess of weight under control, right? Yes. And naturally, it's a very simple thing to do. That is to follow a healthy and active